If you're a fan of Iceman or just a fan of the X-Men, then you probably have noticed in early X-Men comics from the 60s, they would have Bobby Drake AKA Iceman be depicted like a snowman in his ice form, opposed to his more current slick ice form, which does fit the name more than snow. However, the original appearance just has a nostalgic charm to it. But whatever happened to it, and where did it even come from? Now, we would first see Iceman in this form in his first appearance, that being X-Men issue 1 from 1963. This issue does a lot of groundwork for the characters, since it's the first appearance of all the characters, such as the X-Men, Professor X, Magneto, the idea of mutants, etc. However, what we get from Bobby is that he's the youngest member of the team, said to be about 14, and has ice powers, which gives him a snow-type look when he uses them. This was the look he would have for the first 5 issues, which, fun fact, are really interesting to read. X-Men in their early days struggled to develop so many characters so early on, which, by the way, weren't just the X-Men, so was Magneto, Blob, Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, Toad. There were a lot of characters being introduced just in these few issues. Therefore, some characters managed to actually get personalities like Cyclops and Angel, but unfortunately Beast, Jean, and Bobby became more just characters based on nothing but tropes from their key concept. That for Beast was being a scientist, Jean for being a girl, and Bobby being a kid, which were all the ideas that these characters were given when it came down to personality. It's a very interesting to see when you're coming back from all these years of fleshed out storylines with these characters, and to see them at their start where they aren't really characters, but more or less just side characters or sidekicks, whose entire core is based around one simple thing about the character, that either being their occupation, their gender, or their age. Now, what I find really interesting about Bobby's snow appearance is that the way it disappears is not so simple. Instead of a complete redesign, it kind of just shifts between issues 6 to 16. He appears like he was kind of in the middle of both being a snowman and an Iceman. He was slicker than issues 1 to 5, but still very snowy, with those lines being shown to show that he has jagged areas, with the implication being snow layers. By issues 17 and 18, Iceman would go through a near-death experience, and would be placed into a long coma. After waking up, he still appears to be in that said form from previous issues, as in kinda snowy but kinda icy. However, going forward, the character would shift into his more slick design, with some speculating that the reason as to why was the possible power-up after having his near-death experience in issues 17 and 18. However, at the end of issue 18, he was shown to still be his snowy self. However, to be fair, this series has a bit of an issue when it comes down to continuity with appearance. For example, what color are the X-Men costumes? Are they yellow and blue or yellow and black? We don't actually know because characters refer to as both at times. However, the initial idea was that the blue was to show the shine on the black costumes. However, as time would go on, most people just assumed they were blue. Now, this change wouldn't be explained for years, and some just made assumptions that perhaps it wasn't actually a change in canon, just a different depiction of Iceman in an artistic form. However, that is proved wrong when it comes down to flashbacks showing Iceman still as a snowman in those early days, even though the comic themselves are taking place in the present, where Iceman is shown to still be an Iceman. Therefore, I don't think that's the case. I'm pretty sure there was an actual change if in canon it said that, yes, Iceman was a snowman back when he joined the X-Men. 2015 even had a story arc where a young Iceman interacted with his present-day self, and the young Iceman is shown to be in his snow form, which, I'll be honest, is a nice detail and I like the callback, which also proves the point that, no, Iceman did not just always look like this. It very much was a shift. In canon itself, it was a change, from going from a snowman to an Iceman. This form was even referenced in Wolverine and the X-Men from 2008, where in the flashback to the original X-Men, Iceman is shown to have joined the team as a snowman, while in present day, he's slicker than his personality. I remember this really confused me when I was little as to how Iceman was on the original team if he was the same age as Shadowcat and Rogue. But after reading the comics, I just assumed that it's likely the same reason as to how he's a part of the original team in the comics, that being he's the youngest member, 14 or so. It wouldn't be answered until Savage Avengers issue 19 from 2019, where it was said that apparently Iceman can just change his form whichever he prefers. And apparently he used his initial snow form as a way to come across more friendly. As to why he changed it to his more slick one, it isn't stated, however it seems implied that he moved on to change his look to fit in with his older teammates. Although that's only my interpretation of what he's saying. Of course, I could be wrong. I will admit, despite that answer being semi-underwhelming, I think it was the best option. That being that he can just decide. I also appreciate that even though comics have moved on from this appearance, they're not ashamed to include it in flashbacks or time travel plots. Something that a canon addict like myself can appreciate. And well, yes, the Snowman appearance is a little silly. There's just a level of charm to it, and it's very in character for Iceman to just simply have fun being a superhero. So if he decides to choose an Iceman form over a Snowman form, I think that's the one that's more of a character. I'm of course kidding, but I do think that it fits the character well that the idea of him just simply wanting to look like a snowman is why he looked like one does fit well. As well as just being a simply nice nod to previous comics from past decades, and a lot of decades have passed. I think it also shows how much Iceman as a character has grown, because he's come a long way from the 60s. From what could be described as an annoying kid sidekick to potentially being an Omega-level mutant with ice powers, who you don't want to mess with. And by potentially Omega-level mutant, I mean an actual Omega-level mutant. Bobby froze hell. Hell itself. So to see that the character came from somewhere else, and that is a 14-year-old cosplaying as a snowman, it is, I think, pretty cool to see the character's growth. And yes, that was an ice pun, because it's my channel and I can do what I want. And that's it. Like always, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. What are your thoughts on Iceman being a snowman? Bye!